were very different from Donald Trump. I think one distinction you draw is, again, you even said you want to meet him on a field of love as opposed to a field of hate. So that is a difference between you. A similarity is neither of you have ever held political office.
Yeah.
And obviously there is some hesitation by many voters that that is an important thing that you lack. What do you say to them?
Well, the question is legitimate, but I think my answer is significant as well. First of all, the problem with the president is not that he lacked experience. The problem with the president is that he lacks ethics. And he seems to lack a visceral taste for democracy. He lacks a visceral respect for our democratic traditions. I do not. Now, as far as political experience is concerned, and he could have surrounded himself with very fine political experts had he chosen to. Now, I have a lot of respect for political expertise, but let's not kid ourselves. Very experienced politicians led us into the war in Iraq. Very experienced politicians led us into the war in Vietnam. We need political vision now as much as we need political expertise. You could have the best car mechanic in the world, but the best car mechanic doesn't necessarily know what road you should take to San Antonio. That's what I feel I bring. And FDR said that the primary responsibility and the primary role of the presidency, he said, is not the administrative aspect. That, he said, is secondary. The primary role is moral leadership. That is what we lack. We lack a vision of where America is and a vision of where America needs to go. And that takes more than political expertise. And I believe that the experience I do have and the skill set I do have makes me the woman for that job.
So you would be, in this case, GPS, basically.
Yeah, but you know what? That is what the presidency is.
Yeah, I can see that argument.
That is what the president does.
I also...
the president doesn't sit there with a checkbook and try to figure it all out.
No, certainly not this one. You've received some criticism for a couple comments that you have walked back and said were misstated, that people would say were maybe anti-science. You came out, you made a comment against antidepressants, you made a comment that many saw as anti-vax. Did you misspeak, or have your opinions on those things evolved? How would you...
No, they've been inaccurately described, as you just did. I never made a comment anti-antidepressants. I've never said anything anti-science. I've never said anything anti-medicine. I've actually never said anything anti-vaccines. What I have said, the first thing I said, and I did misspeak. I was at an art gallery in New Hampshire, and the comment was about mandatory vaccines. And I spent most of my adult life in California. There's been a lot of conversation about religious exemptions, personal exemptions. And I said something that I am sorry that I said. I said it sounds Orwellian or draconian to me. I should not have said that, and I am sorry. That was not an anti-vax statement. Now, about antidepressants, painkillers, for instance, have a role, but we now know, we have attorney generals all over this country who are right now indicting big pharmaceutical company executives for predatory behavior, where we absolutely know now that they knowingly overprescribed, overmanufactured, and overmarketed opioids. And that's how so much that has contributed to the opioid crisis. Now, just like painkillers certainly have a role, I'm sure antidepressants clearly have a role in some people's lives. But we're living at a time where the spectrum of normal human despair is so often treated, or at least the conversation is there about meds, that I do question. If somebody had a divorce or a heartbreak or someone died or a professional failure or bankruptcy, this is painful, but it's not a mental illness. And these drugs are mainly addictive, and I'm not the only person in mainstream America to be questioning the overprescription that there is at least as much question about overprescription as about underprescription. I'm not wandering into mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenia. That's not my lane. But normal human despair is the lane of someone who does the kind of work that I have done.
Well, thank you so much for explaining that. I want to say you have not yet qualified for September debates. Are you confident that you will?
Well, anybody can go to Marianne 2020. I need about 6,000 more of the donors, first-time donors, which before August 28th, and we're certainly on track to get that. And I also need 2% of 4 national polls. So we'll see. We'll probably know something in the next few days.
All right. Well, thank you so much for making the time.
you.
Best of luck. I really appreciate speaking to you.
Thank you.
Marianne Williamson, everybody.